Hello, my name is Madison, and last week, I watched my entire family steal my inheritance right from under my nose. I stood in Gran's Victorian house, the one she'd promised would be mine since I was 12, clutching the envelope she'd left me. The lawyer had just finished reading the will, and my mother's perfectly manicured hand was already reaching for the house keys. "Honey, you have to understand," Mom said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "The house needs so many repairs. We're just trying to protect you from that burden." "Protect me?" I stared at her, then at my father, who wouldn't meet my eyes. "By selling it without telling me." My brother, Jaden, leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Come on, Nat. You couldn't afford the property taxes anyway." The familiar scent of Victoria's lavender sachets still lingered in the air. Just 3 weeks ago, we'd sat in her sunroom, sharing tea while she told stories about her youth. Now, here they all were, divvying up her life like vultures. "You can't do this," I said, my voice shaking. "Victoria left it to me. It's in the will." "Actually," my sister, Rosie, chimed in, "Mom and Dad have power of attorney. The sale's already gone through." I felt the blood drain from my face. "What sale?" "We found a lovely buyer," Mom said, smoothing her designer blouse. "He's offered well above market value. The papers are signed." My fingers tightened around Gran's envelope. I hadn't opened it yet. It had arrived by courier that morning with strict instructions to wait until after the will reading. "Get out," I whispered. "Don't be dramatic, Madison," Dad finally spoke up. "We're family." "Family?" I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. "Family doesn't do this. Get out of my grandmother's house. Now." They filed out, Mom pausing at the door. "We're meeting the buyer tomorrow to hand over the keys. You should come, make peace with it." Once alone, I sank into Victoria's favorite armchair and opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a small key. "My dearest Madison," it began. "If you're reading this, they've done exactly what I feared they would. But don't worry, I've left you something they don't know about, something that will help you fight back. Check behind the loose brick in the garden wall, the one with the heart carved into it." I stood up, my heart pounding. Victoria had always said the best revenge was served with patience and wisdom. Looks like she'd left me the recipe. The law office of Harper Lawson smelled like leather and coffee. I placed Victoria's documents on her desk. The papers I'd found behind that garden brick had kept me up all night. "Well," Harper said, adjusting her glasses. "Your grandmother was certainly thorough. Can they really sell the house without my consent?" She smiled, the kind of smile that made me sit up straighter. "That's the interesting part. Your grandmother added a specific clause to her will 6 months ago. The house can't be sold without your explicit written permission, regardless of any power of attorney." "But Mom said the sale's already gone through," my stomach twisted. "Which means," Harper leaned forward, "someone forged your signature." My hands gripped the armrests. "What?" "Look at this." She pulled out a document. "This is supposedly your signature on the sale agreement. But the date," she tapped the paper, "you were in Seattle that day, correct?" "Yes, for work. I have flight receipts." "Keep them handy. We're going to need them." Harper started typing on her computer. "The buyer, Nathan Caldwell, is coming in today. He should know his purchase isn't valid. You really think we can stop this?" "Stop it?" Harper scoffed. "Madison, we can reverse it. And whoever forged your signature could face serious consequences." My phone buzzed, a text from Rosie. "Mom's furious you went to a lawyer. Says you're betraying the family." I showed Harper the message. She shook her head. Interesting how they define betrayal. A knock interrupted us. Nathan Caldwell walked in, looking more worried than a legitimate buyer should. Mr. Caldwell. Harper gestured to a chair. Please, join us. I assume this is about the house? He asked, glancing at me. Your mother assured me everything was in order. My mother lied, I said flatly. And they never signed those papers. His face paled. What? Harper slid the documents across her desk. The sale requires Madison's consent. This signature. It's forged. She was in another state that day. Nathan ran a hand through his hair. They told me you'd agreed, that you just couldn't be there for the signing. They told you wrong, I said. That house means everything to me. My grandmother. I know, he interrupted. Your mother mentioned you were difficult about letting go, said you were too emotional about it. Something in his tone made me pause. What else did they tell you? He hesitated, then reached for his briefcase. I think you should see these emails. Your family's been planning this for months. They were quite persistent about rushing the sale. As he laid out printed emails on Harper's desk, I saw my grandmother's words in my head again. The biggest betrayals come wrapped in the prettiest packages. She'd known. She'd known all along what they would try to do. The emails made me sick. Mom had been shopping the house around to buyers for months, while Victoria was still alive. Your mother mentioned there might be resistance, Nathan said, pointing to one particular message. She said you were too attached to see the financial opportunity. Financial opportunity. I read the email's date. This was sent 2 days after Victoria's funeral. Harper sorted through the papers. Mr. Caldwell, would you be willing to make a formal statement about these communications? Yes, he nodded. I should have asked more questions. When they insisted on rushing everything through, something felt off. My phone buzzed again, Jaden calling. I declined it. There's more, Nathan said quietly. Your mother mentioned something about items in the house. Valuable things your grandmother had hidden away. I remembered the key from Victoria's letter, hidden where, she wouldn't say. Just that they needed to secure the house quickly before I had a chance to. He trailed off. Before I had a chance to what? I pressed. To find whatever it is your grandmother left for you. Harper gathered the emails into a folder. This is excellent evidence of premeditation, Madison. We should. The office door burst open. Mom stood there, perfectly coiffed as always, with Rosie hovering behind her. Madison, what do you think you're doing? Her voice was steel wrapped in silk. Funny. I was about to ask her the same thing. I held up the forged document. Care to explain this? She barely glanced at it. Nathan, we had a deal. A deal based on fraud, he replied, standing up. I'm withdrawing my offer. Mom's composure cracked. You can't do that. We've already allocated the funds. Allocated? I stood too. You mean spent money you didn't have yet? Rosie stepped forward. Nat, please. Mom and Dad need this. The business. What about the business? I demanded. Mom shot Rosie a warning look. That's enough. Madison, you're making a terrible mistake. That house is nothing but a burden. Then why are you so desperate to sell it? I pulled out Victoria's letter. What exactly are you afraid I'll find? Her eyes flicked to the envelope, and for the first time, I saw a real fear there. Whatever you think you know, she said carefully, you don't understand the whole picture. Then explain it to me. What's hidden in that house that's worth forging my signature for? The silence stretched. Finally, Mom turned to leave but paused at the door. Some secrets, she said quietly, should stay buried with the dead. As she left, Harper picked up her phone. I'm calling in a favor. We need to get into that house tonight, before they try anything else. Jaden cornered me in the parking lot as I left Harper's office. You're making a huge mistake, he said, blocking my path to my car. Mom and Dad put everything they had into this deal. Everything they had or everything they stole. He grabbed my arm. Listen to me. The family business is underwater. Dad made some bad investments. I yanked free. So that makes it okay to steal my inheritance? Your inheritance. He laughed bitterly. You were always her favorite. Every Sunday dinner, every holiday, it was always about precious Madison. That's not true. No. Then why did she leave you the house? Why did she spend hours whispering secrets to you in that stupid sunroom while the rest of us watched from outside? A car door slammed nearby. Rosie approached, her heels clicking against the asphalt. They're meeting tonight, she said, not meeting my eyes. At the Riverside Hotel. About the house. Jaden spun around. Rosie, shut up. No, she crossed her arms. I'm done lying. Mom and Dad are planning something, not something big. Why are you telling me this? She hesitated. Because I found something in Mom's office. Documents about Grant's estate that don't match what was in the will. Jaden stepped toward her. You had no right to go through those papers. And you had no right to forge our sister's signature, Rosie shot back. I stared at my brother. You forged my signature. He at least had the decency to look ashamed. Mom said it was the only way. We needed the money fast, before. Before what? Before the audit, Rosie cut in. The business is being investigated for fraud. They needed clean money to cover the tracks. My phone buzzed, Harper texting. Got the keys. Meet at the house in 30 minutes. I have to go, I said, pushing past Jaden. Nat, wait. Rosie called. The meeting tonight, it's at 8. Room 412. They don't know I know, but I heard Mom on the phone. Whatever they're planning, it's happening soon. Jaden grabbed her arm. You're going to regret this. No, she pulled away. I'm done being part of this mess. Victoria wouldn't have wanted this. I looked at my siblings, Jaden, angry and defensive. Rosie, finally showing her true colors. Thanks for telling me, Rosie. But why now? She smiled sadly. Because Victoria once told me that doing the right thing late is better than never doing it at all. As I drove away, I texted Harper. Change of plans. We need to crash a meeting tonight. And bring your phone. We're recording everything. Room 412 of the Riverside Hotel had a connecting door to 414, where Harper and I pressed our ears against the wall. Mom's voice came through clearly, thanks to the hotel's thin walls. The audit team arrives Monday, she was saying. If we don't have that money transferred by then. We know, Grace, Dad interrupted. But Madison's lawyer is causing problems. Then fix it, David. We didn't spend 30 years building this business to watch it crumble because your mother decided to play favorites from beyond the grave. I started recording on my phone. What about the paintings? A new voice, Nathan. You promised there were valuable artworks hidden in the house. There are, Mom snapped. That conniving mother-in-law of mine, she had a collection. Insurance documents valued them at over $2 million. My hand shook. Grand's art collection. She'd always told me they were just prints. And you're sure they're in the house? Nathan asked. In the walls, Dad said. Behind the wooden panels in the sunroom. That's why we need to move fast. Harper scribbled on her notepad. Insurance fraud. The audit team will find everything, she whispered. I gripped my phone tighter. This wasn't just about the house. This was a full-blown conspiracy. And by morning, my family was going to learn what it felt like to be the ones caught in a trap. Mom continued, her voice tight. The fake invoices, the offshore accounts, Victoria knew. That's why she changed her will at the last minute. Why she left everything to Madison. She was protecting the art, Dad muttered. Making sure we couldn't get to it, Mom agreed. Then, her tone hardened. Well, she failed. Once we get back into that house. A loud crack interrupted her. Rosie had stepped into the room. Mom. Dad. What's going on? Rosie. Mom's expression darkened. What are you doing here? I followed you. Her voice shook. I heard everything. This doesn't concern you, Mom said sharply. Rosie's eyes flashed. Doesn't concern me. You're stealing from Grand's estate. From Madison. We're protecting our family's legacy. By committing fraud. Rosie's voice cracked. By forging signatures. Hiding stolen artwork. Mom's jaw tightened. Your father and I had no choice. The business was failing because you were embezzling money. Rosie shot back. Victoria figured it out, didn't she? That's why she changed her will. A heavy silence fell over the room. Dad exhaled slowly. How long have you known? Rosie lifted her chin. Long enough. I found the real accounts, the ones you hid from the auditors. Victoria didn't just leave clues for Madison. She left them for all of us, hoping one of us would do the right thing. Beside me, Harper touched my arm, nodding toward the door. We had enough evidence recorded. We should go. But I couldn't move. Rosie straightened. I'm calling the police. Like hell you are, Mom snarled. Something crashed. Rosie screamed. Doing the right thing had just become urgent. I burst through the connecting door just as Mom ripped Rosie's phone from her hands and smashed it against the wall. Get your hands off her. I shouted. The room froze. Dad stood by the window, pale. Nathan edged toward the door. Mom's grip on Rosie's arm was ironclad. Well, Mom said, eerily calm. The prodigal daughter joins us. Harper stepped in behind me, holding up her phone, recording everything. I suggest you let her go, Grace. Unless you'd like assault charges added to fraud. Mom's fingers uncurled, and Rosie scrambled to my side. You recorded everything, didn't you? Mom asked. Every word, I said. The fraud. The embezzlement. The art theft. All of it. Dad took a step forward. You don't understand. You stole from your own mother, I cut him off. You forged my signature. You hid evidence. Nathan cleared his throat. I think it's time I make a full statement. Mom turned on him. You wouldn't dare. He pulled out his phone. I've been recording too. Ever since you first approached me about rushing the sale. Something felt wrong. Now I know why. You're making a terrible mistake, Mom whispered, but her perfect facade was cracking. Rosie grabbed my hand. The paintings, Nat, they're not just valuable. They're stolen. What? That's what Victoria discovered, she said, her voice raw. Dad's been using the business to launder stolen art for years. She figured it out when she found out one of her own paintings was a forgery. Dad collapsed into a chair, his head in his hands. She confronted me 6 months ago, Rosie continued. Said she had proof. That's when she changed her will. I realized, when she added that clause about my consent, she knew you'd try to sell the house. Mom's lips curled. She knew we needed to get to those paintings before the audit. Harper was already on her phone. Yes, detective. Room 412 at the Riverside Hotel. We have multiple confessions recorded. Mom lunged for her. I stepped between them. It's over, Mom. Victoria gave me that house for a reason, to protect her legacy from people like you. Mom laughed, but there was no humor in it. People like me. I built this family while she judged us from her moral high ground. No, Rosie said softly. You destroyed this family. Victoria was trying to save it. Sirens wailed in the distance. Nathan moved to block the door. I turned to Mom. The paintings. Are they still in the house? Her silence was answer enough. I turned to Harper. We need to get there first. She nodded. I'll call for a warrant. As the sirens grew louder, I watched my parents' empire crumble, built on lies, destroyed by truth. Victoria would have been proud. The police found the paintings exactly where Dad said they'd be, hidden behind the wooden panels in Grand's sunroom. 13 masterpieces. Each worth a fortune. Each linked to a different art theft over the past decade. Detective Morris shook his head as we watched them being removed. Your father's business was just a front. High-end furniture imports made it easy to smuggle stolen artwork. Jaden appeared as they loaded the last painting into an evidence van. His face was pale. What have you done, Nat? I turned. Me? I'm not the one who turned Victoria's house into a storage facility for stolen art. They're going to prison, he whispered. Mom. Dad. Rosie stepped forward. They made their choice, Jaden. Just like you did when you forged Nat's signature. A detective perked up. Is that an admission of forgery? Jaden's face crumpled. Mom said, she promised. But people did get hurt, I said. Victoria spent her last months realizing her own son was a criminal. Her art collection was replaced with fakes. The business she helped build was a lie. Ms. Lawson. An evidence technician called out. We turned as officers carefully pulled a metal box from behind the last panel. My heart jumped. It was the perfect size for the key Victoria had left me. That's private property. Jaden protested. Harper smirked. Actually, according to the will, everything in this house belongs to Madison. My hands trembled as I fit the key into the lock. The box clicked open. Inside lay a leather-bound journal and a USB drive. Harper inhaled sharply. Your grandmother contacted me 6 months ago. She was gathering evidence. She knew they'd try to sell the house once she was gone. Why didn't she go to the police? Rosie asked. I ran my fingers over the worn leather cover of the journal. Because, I said, voice steady, she wanted us to see the truth for ourselves. She had wanted to give them a chance to come clean, I realized that now. Victoria's words about love and wisdom echoed in my mind. Even at the end, she had been protecting us, hoping we'd choose the right path before it was too late. Detective Morris flipped through the journal, her expression grim. This is enough to put them away for a long time: art theft, money laundering, fraud. Jaden slumped against the wall, his face pale. I didn't know about any of this, I swear. Rosie shook her head. No, you just went along with it. Like we all did. Until now. I turned to the final page of Victoria's journal, my heart clenching at the sight of her handwriting. Tears blurred my vision as I read. My dearest Madison. If you're reading this, you've done what I couldn't, expose the truth while protecting what truly matters. Our family's real legacy isn't money or art. It's the courage to stand for what's right. I am so proud of you, my girl. As the police carried out the last of the evidence, Rosie, Jaden, and I stood in the sunroom, bathed in the glow of the stained glass windows. The life we had known was gone, shattered by the weight of our parents' betrayal. But maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what we needed. The morning light streamed through Victoria's freshly cleaned windows as I sipped tea from her favorite porcelain cup. Rosie sat across from me in the sunroom while Jaden and Nathan carefully placed the last of the restored paintings back on the walls. The insurance company confirmed it, Harper said, shuffling through papers at Grant's antique desk. Once they verify the painting's authenticity, the recovery reward alone will be substantial. I don't care about the money, I said, watching Nathan adjust a small impressionist garden scene in its original spot. I just want the art back where it belongs. Nathan stepped back, admiring the piece. Your grandmother had incredible taste. These aren't just valuable, they're beautiful. She always said art should be lived with, not locked away, Rosie murmured, running her fingers along the frame. Jaden cleared his throat. Listen, Nat, about everything. I knew what he was going to say, I'm sorry. But sorry didn't fix this. I know, I said, cutting him off. No, he admitted. But maybe this will help. He pulled out a stack of documents and placed them on the table. I'm testifying against Dad's business partners, all of them. Rosie's breath hitched. Sully, those people are dangerous. So is living with guilt. He exhaled sharply. Victoria taught us better than this. The doorbell rang. Nathan answered it and returned with Detective Morris. Good news, she announced. Your parents took the plea deal. They'll serve time, but their cooperation means we can dismantle the entire smuggling network. And the business? Rosie asked. Being dissolved, Morris confirmed. But the legitimate assets will be returned to the estate. She smiled. Your grandmother's legacy is safe now. I walked to the garden wall, tracing the brick where I had found Victoria's letter. She knew, I whispered. She knew this would happen, all of it. She knew we'd make the right choice, Rosie agreed, standing beside me. Even if it took some of us longer than others. Jaden picked up Victoria's teacup, studying its delicate pattern. Remember how she used to say every broken thing has a story. And every story has a lesson, I finished softly. Nathan and Skylar gathered their things. The house is officially yours now, Harper said. No more legal battles. What will you do with it? I looked around, the paintings back where they belonged, the sun catching the stained glass, the garden beyond. My siblings beside me, broken but healing. Exactly what Victoria wanted, I said. Make it a home again. A real one this time. Rosie squeezed my hand. Jaden nodded in quiet understanding. Later, as the evening light painted the sunroom in amber hues, I found one final note tucked inside Victoria's journal. Remember, darling, revenge is sweet, but redemption is sweeter. Some families break to become stronger. Love always, Grand. I closed the journal, a smile tugging at my lips. She was right, as always. This house wasn't just my inheritance. It was my chance to rebuild. To create something better from the ruins of what we had lost. And this time, we'd do it right.